Hello, this is Marie Steffenson, and we are exploring palettes today. In the previous videos, I've explored the previous palettes that I've used, a wide variety, and I just reviewed the Daniel Smith palette that I've been using for the last several years, as well as the work that I'm using in my figure drawing palette with granulating. I want to share a quick story with you. I was at a watercolor event and a class with one of my well-admired teachers, Paul Walsh in Oklahoma. You're amazing. And the lady sitting next to me for the event brought out her palette. We were working on acrylic that day, and she brought out her palette, and it actually had some leftover watercolor paint in it from when she was in college, which was the early 70s. So we're looking at 50 years here. And she's working in the acrylic, and she couldn't figure out why. Yeah, so she got it wet, activated the paint, and was working with a little bit, but then she was trying to have access to work with the acrylic, and she couldn't figure out why the paint was contaminating her acrylic paint, because contaminating is not the right word, but engaging and interacting with the acrylic paint. And the reason is because a watercolor paint never dies. I'm sitting here next to a woman who has 50-year-old watercolor paints on her palette, and they are still working, they're still vibrant, everything is great with them. Now, granted, over the last decades, from what I've read and studied and researched, is that the quality of watercolor paints continue to increase. Not only have we demanded it as artists, we are saying, hey, we want the watercolor paint to be lasting, archival, light quality, light fast. And not only are we saying this as artists, but then also the art paint companies are testing on light fastness and providing a really superior product. And so she had material that was 50 years old, but I can say with confidence that the material that I'm working with has better light fastness. For the older material, you should probably keep it away from light. I just wanted to share that story with you about material lasting really well a long time. And it's also worth noting, these aren't the most cheap material, but it's worth it, because what I have paints here from 20 years ago. More than 20 years ago. Oh, more than 20 years ago. And they're still good quality. And I also have some tubes that are from more than 20 years ago. And what I'm finding is that it was a different brand at that point. I hadn't discovered Daniel Smith yet, but the tubes themselves are still fine. If they get dried out, you can actually open up the back here. You can open up the back of the tube, put water in, and reactivate the paint. So your watercolors never die. Thanks so much for spending a few moments chatting with me. I'd love to hear your experience. If anybody finds old watercolor supplies, don't throw them out, and let me know. I'd love to hear about your adventures with it. Wishing you all joy in your watercolor journey. Thanks.